Greetings, like you maniacs of minds on crimes. Welcome back to another Warframe's Ins and Outs. Today we are going to be talking about Nova, and not just because Nova Prime has recently been unvaulted. I've been meaning to talk about her for a really long time. Months, in fact. several months. Anyway, I do have her nice new deluxe skin, which looks fantastic. So much better than the bug thing that we have. Why is that Nova's old deluxe skin? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, Nova is a frame that I really enjoy, but I don't play a lot of. Simply because I don't find her applicable in a lot of things that I do, namely disruption and arbitrations. She's not very good at it. She can work, but not as well as some other frames like Nezha, Nidus, Wisp. The list goes on. Anyway, she's a bit of an oddball to build because, well, you'll just see. So let's go over her ability. So her passive. When she gets knocked over, 6-meter blast that topples enemies, does 250 damage. No one really cares. So, her first ability, Null Star. So, if you have enough duration, which we'll talk about in a minute, you will have 90% damage reduction. It's about 15 of these little balls of antimatter that give her 90% damage reduction. Now, here's the thing about her damage reduction. It doesn't feel like it's 90%. It really doesn't. It only really will protect you when her 4 is active, which, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm used to Nezha and his 90% damage reduction plus adaptation, plus his 500 plus armor with the Umbral mods and his speed. But anyway, not enough about that. So these will give you damage reduction. Also, if the enemies get close, these will fly off of her and do slash damage. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It really doesn't. But it is a thing. I kind of wish they didn't fly off of her, but that's where her 4 augment comes in. Anyway, her second ability, Antimatter Drop, aka Vegeta's Big Bang Attack from Dragon Ball. Everything dies. Yes, I know I just did an anime reference. Shut the fuck up. It's the closest thing I could comparable to it. Yeah, it's very slow, but my god, this thing hits hard. So that orb damage, 290 radiation damage. It is to note that this thing does pure radiation damage. Does nothing else. It's only radiation, which means it will delete basically every single Grineer unit in existence. But it's not very effective against high-level infested because they don't care about radiation damage. Also, it won't not proc the radiation effect. It will not cause confusion, which is odd. It does the damage, but not the status effect. Anyway, damage absorption's 8 times. So, you shoot it, and it gains more and more damage until it turns a different color. And then, yeah. So, let me actually show you, not against Corrupted Heavy Gunners, let me show you against Bombards, which have alloy armor. So, these are level 140 Bombards. These are not Corrupted Bombards, but it will be the exact same story. Watch this shit. Gone. Yeah, that's pretty fucking potent. Now, it is to say that that really only applies against enemies that are very weak to radiation. It will kill most things, but it won't always. So there is that. As a DPS ability, I kind of wish it did some other form of damage. Just radiation on its own is fine, but some enemies are flat out very resistant to it. Namely, some Corpus units. It will delete every single Corpus robot, though, because they are pretty weak to radiation. It's 25% extra damage to robotic. But against, heavily shielded Corpus, which is a lot of them, against high-level infested, and against Grineer that have ferrite armor, which are the heavy gunners and things like that, it won't do much. And additionally, if the enemy has damage reduction like a Nox, it probably won't kill. So let me actually just spawn in said Nox. So this guy has like a lot of damage reduction, a lot of armor, and has alloy armor. And a lot of it. Yeah. And it did proc the status effect. I swear, it doesn't always. But yeah, the best way to deal with Nox is to break their helmet. So, even though that guy had alloy armor, and just to show you that I'm not crazy, they have alloy armor. So that's why Noxes are so fucking tough. Either way, her third ability is a teleport. Now with this build, the teleport distance is not impressive at all, but it is to note that it redirects projectiles, and it makes them go stupid fucking fast. But the problem, at least with my kit gun here, they disappear. So let me actually bring out my Kuva. I'm not going to bring out the Brahma because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm going to bring out my Ogress. Yeah, with the Ogress, yeah, it just flies. Anyway, so there's that. You can use it as sort of a getaway. There's an augment that will give you increased movement speed when you go through that. And also you can link them together pretty easily. So there's that. You can do some pretty cool trick shots with it. But other than that, it really isn't anything super impressive. It's there. It's there, though. It's there as a quick getaway because Nova is kind of squishy. Anyway, her fourth ability is the ability that everyone knows, Molecular Prime. She fucking deletes everything. Makes enemies slow as molasses if you do the build that I'm going to be showing. I have the other build, which I will show. And enemies take double damage. No matter what, it's always double. Neja can make enemies take even more damage, but he can't affect as many enemies as she can. So also, it's pretty fucking straightforward. Let me actually just spawn in some enemies, and I will show you the movement speed. Also, Molecular Prime's augment. So you see how fast they're moving now, and then I'm going to do this. This is an 80 meter radius of this build. Nothing can stop it. The only things that can resist it are like Demolists and other things that can disable abilities. So yeah, they take double damage from all sources, including her nuke. But it still doesn't kill these guys. But yeah, you can see that it really does just halt them. And this lasts for like 70 seconds. It lasts a very, very long time. So that is absolutely awesome. Anyway, let's go over the build. This is the first build. This is your typical Slova. I know that's disgusting that I have an open slot here. Here's the thing. There's nothing here I would add really. If I wanted to, I'd put a Forma here. And then probably a Forma here and put on Adaptation. And that's kind of it. To get max slow, 145% power strength is sufficient. You could go higher if you really want to lean into antimatter drop and then put in more range for better antimatter drop. Although the radius isn't affected by range, so that's a moot point. I know that's kind of odd that the radius of the explosion isn't affected by range. You think it would be, but nah. Maybe DE did that so we don't put max range on Nova and nuke the map over and over again, because that would only be cool. Anyway, I have course protection on here. Really, this should be enemy radar or anything really. Anyway, this is your typical Slova build. And then you have Molecular Fission. This, I wouldn't say is 100% required, but since you cannot recast her one when you still have antimatter particles around her, it's almost required. Not 100% required, but it is definitely a very, very nice addition. So, Narrow-Minded is pretty much required on her. Prime continuity, you technically don't need it, but the more duration, the better. Now, what about Constitution? Do I even have Constitution? I do. Somewhere. Yes, I do. I have Constitution. This will give her even more duration, but this lasts a long time. Now, why a lot of duration? It's because the more duration you have, the further the reach of molecular prime. I know, duration equals range. It's the same thing with Mag's 3. The more duration you have on Mag, the wider the radius of her 3. Same thing with Nova and her 4. So this is the other build. This is the Speedva build. If you have negative power strength, the enemies don't slow down. They speed up. A lot. They turn into Speedy Gonzalez. This is a build you could use. Could. Do I use it? Sometimes. It does make defense missions go a touch faster, but it's not really that big of a difference. And honestly, this build is really scary to use in like high level defense missions because the enemies hit hard and they're fast. Everything else about them is faster. Their fire rate, their damage, everything is faster. So it is literally just with overextended to get negative power strength. I'd say 40% is optimal. You could technically go even lower, but that's nuts. So let me actually show you the effect of a Speedva. So this is how fast the enemies are moving normally. And then when I do this, yeah. But here's the cool thing. They still take double damage. Now, with a team, if you have, say, a Korra with a lot of range on her 4, then a Speedva really isn't that big of a problem. Couple that with a like a Blessing Trinity and things like that to give you energy and health, and you will be completely fine. But you can see how fast this girl put on fucking prime shred. I swear to God, look at that. So yeah, I really don't really recommend this kind of build because it is simply scary. Because Nova, she really cannot take a hit very well. Anyway, Nova is an absolutely fantastic frame. Do I think that she is one of the best frames in the game? In certain circumstances, she is definitely up there. She makes a lot of mission types just sleeper easy mode, even though this game is already easy mode. She's good in survival because she slows everything down and lets you take your time. She's good in defense with a coordinated team if you do a Speedva build. She's good, but here's the problem with her. If you cast your antimatter drop and you get radiation procced, anything in the 15-meter radius gets insta-destroyed, including the objective. But, of course, this doesn't happen very often. She's also a pretty decent Lich Hunter, especially if your Lich is weak to radiation. Nova has a field day because she can do heavy damage, although the Liches will resist your molecular prime after a while. And also, depending on what Lich you get, she won't survive. So, she's a good frame. She is. Nova's great. It's just she's kind of scary to use and a bit of a pain in the ass to build because you need narrow-minded, and you can only get that from doing the stupid orc and vaults, which I hate. But all that being said, if you have the resources to make a decent build like I have, even though it is very not optimal because I don't have every single thing filled out or whatever, I don't have max duration. 80 meters is huge, by the way. That's bigger than most maps. so I don't really see the problem. Well, bigger than most tile sets, I should say, because some of the maps are gigantic. Talk about like the area of the objective. She's also incredible at interception. A really fun thing I used to do with her was use the Zenith Star and her at the same time. But since the Zenith Star's death, can't do that anymore. Boo-hoo, I'm so sad. Actually, I am kind of a little annoyed because I love doing that with Vara in arbitration. That was great. Either case, she's a good frame. She just isn't applicable to everything. But the game modes that she is applicable to, like mobile defense, interception, survivals, she's great. So, I hope that cleared some things up about her. There are a few other things that the next few videos, I think I'm going to clear up a few things, namely things like stat sticks, how they work and everything. So, Nova's a great frame. She's just not applicable to everything, which is a bit of a problem. It's fine, though. She is a very old frame. She came out, 2014? And she hasn't changed a bit? That's a sign she's good. So, thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, in Trophy, we trust.